if I hadn't talked to you guys.
All right. That's awesome.
What about you?
I've been into spiritual stuff for a very, very, very long time. I had like my first spiritual experience when I was like 11. So I just kept looking into stuff. And then just so happens Alex and I are into like the same type of spiritual teachings. And we met like, I think it was a couple, not, was it last summer?
Yeah, it was like August or September.
Yeah. So.
You just been coming to class ever since?
Oh no, this is my second one with Alex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just I'm actually in the area now, so.
Are you in Jersey?
Maybe not permanently, but right now I'm in Houston. So.
Or
what? Yeah, area.
Do you work somewhere else?
No, I've been living in Seattle for a while. So.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm still up in the air of what I'm going to end up doing. It's just, my sister needed some help on her house. She just bought a house in the Woodlands. And so I was like, well, she's all quarantined by herself and super like sad and like scared to get sick. So I'm like, okay, let's fly down here and see what happens and, go.
So you're debating on moving back?
Yeah, I'm not quite too sure what the best route is right now, but yeah, debating. So.
And how old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh, okay. When's your birthday?
February 3rd.
I always like second guess how old I am.
You look really young.
I get that a lot. Thank you. So I'm hoping when I'm like 40, it pays off.
Yeah.
Still hold.
Hey, Adelie, Andrew.
Hello. Aha. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Another day at work, chilling.
Looks like
Yeah. It's easy money.
Drew, I don't know too much about you, but I do feel like you're a hardworking man just because every time I do see you, it's through one of these meetings and you're always at work.
It's just the shift I'm on right now. It's kind of the only. I'm on night shift right now, so I don't have to do it anymore. Starting September, I'll be finished with night shift, so I won't have to do this anymore. Yay me! But other than that, yeah, I work too much. But yeah.
Yeah, you're not at work, you're building a staircase or
I'm building something. I don't know, it helped me, I was kind of going crazy for a while when I got back from Houston, and it kind of helped me get my mind organized, and I had something to work on. It just kept me distracted from a bunch of other stuff, and it really was very therapeutic for me, so it was kind of a choice. It's like I wasn't always a hard worker. It was kind of like, I've always thought about doing all the things that I'm doing, and now I'm in a place that I can do it, and I'm just trying to take full access of what I have now, and since I have the capabilities of building and having all these tools and stuff, I'm able to do all those things I've been thinking about when I was working in Houston. So, yeah. Yeah, getting it done.
Hey, Claire.
Hi, guys.
Adelie, Claire, and Adelie, how are y'all doing?
Good. I'm feeling super good. Just went on a walk. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I'm good. I just ate some pancakes for dinner.
Yum.
Vegan pancakes?
Yeah, it was good.
All right, well, let's get started. So, yeah, is there anything on anybody's mind? Where are y'all at? What have y'all been thinking of? What have y'all been working on?
I got something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was wondering if y'all could, or just help kind of with more optimism in general. I tend to be more of a realist, but I do see a lot of benefits in being more optimistic, and so I need some tips.
Yeah, if anyone wants to go. Andrew, you look like you want to say it. No? Yeah,
Okay. Oh.
go ahead.
I think like one way that I think that helps with like optimism is just like being grateful and like taking time in your day, like each day, and just be like, I'm grateful for like one little thing, like one small thing. And then once you like start practicing that, like even when you're walking, like just look up and be like, wow, like the trees, like wow, like the air, you know. And then like that'll just kind of like, I feel like, lift your mood up naturally, because when you see that little things are beautiful, then everything, then it kind of builds up into that like type of energy. And then just like focusing on what you like have instead of like lack, in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Cool.
Very well said, Adelie. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we did or what we were supposed to do for our yoga teacher training every day. Express gratitude for, like you said, anything. You can express gratitude for toilet paper. You know, it's just about, like, exactly like she said, going more towards the positive side and sharing that love or acknowledging that versus constantly being in the negative. Yeah, anyone else? Chevy, we can't hear you. Do you have a mic? We can't hear you.
I'll say something in the meantime.
Yeah,
Piggybacking off of Adelie, that just makes me think of like connecting with your inner child. Like, you know, whenever a child walks around the world, they're just like, wow, because everything is new. And I feel like children are very optimistic. They don't have, I feel like our experiences sometimes make us tend to be more realistic, because I find myself being like that too. But it's just kind of like connecting with the inner child will bring back that like optimism and kind of allow you to use your imagination and be like, well, what if this did happen, even if it seems far-fetched.
yeah, beautiful.
Can you guys hear me?
There you go.
You can hear me now? Okay. Yes. So with that, I also feel that words of affirmation are vital. So the words that you tell yourself on a daily basis, being aware of the words that you're saying toward yourself and toward others. And if you're finding that you're using your words in a negative way, simply switch it. You know, if you find yourself anything negative, just switching it to positive right in that moment will help you to, you know, find more optimism in your day. So words of affirmation, telling yourself right when you wake up that you're beautiful, that you're grateful for this or this, that I am whatever you feel that you're not, just switch it to the positive words and do that throughout your day over and over and over.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah, I don't know. Leandra, Drew, you have anything?
I would just say it's what has already been said already is like looking at what you have already and try to find something good about it. It's trying to find positivity in your everyday life. Even though it can be hard at times, you kind of have to see through the fog and make it what you want it in a way.
Yeah, that's really good. You know, I will say I struggle with that as well. I tend to lean more towards the negative affirmation or the negative motivation, I should say. And that can be a detriment as well. And what I mean, I think they talked about this a few weeks ago, but what I mean by a negative motivator is like telling yourself like, kind of talking crap to yourself, like, oh, you can't do it. You're being a baby kind of thing. And, proving yourself wrong in a sense. But that can also have its negative effect in that sometimes it's not enough motivation to get you to do it. And then it's like you're proving that negative comment right. And so that gets associated in the mind, and it becomes a new kind of a pattern that you start to revolve around. And, like I say, that's something that I definitely, struggle with as well in my relation to things that I need to do or things that I should be more appreciative of. And, the simple example that I used or that I like to use is just doing my laundry. And as I've said many, many times, I always hate doing my laundry. It ends up piling up. And I'm not going to say this works every time, but it does help me to say I get to do my laundry. I get to go to work. I get to, clean the house. That, on the one hand, that's a gratification, and it's a more of a positive association to the action or the stasis that you're experiencing. Even if there's something negative about it, you can find the positive. It's like, well, I get to reflect on this negative aspect of my life and find a way to find the message or find the the knowledge from that experience. Whereas there's people, in a certain context, the reason I say it's gratitude, because there's always somebody that wishes that they were in your shoes, no matter really what shoes you're in. And, I say that, especially us being in America, that there's all kinds of kids all over the world that no matter what life circumstance any of us have would, dream or die to be in our circumstances. There's, and, I hate to be, kind of cliche in the context of like parents always saying like, there's children starving in Africa kind of thing. But, there are places in the world that it's just like, they don't have regular running water. They don't have clean access to water. They don't have, school. They don't have, a decent place to live. And so I think if coupled with the gratitude and your association to changing, like Chevy was saying, the words, the power of the word, and even making just a type of switch in your statements, I think can have the incremental effect that you're ultimately looking for.
Another thing that I'll add too is just like starting and ending your day for yourself in a positive way. So starting your day with a particular ritual that you follow that's specifically for you and for no one else but you. And then ending your day with the successes of your day. So writing out the things that you did that day and keeping a log of it, for a week. So within that week, when you're starting to feel negative again, you can flip through and say, okay, what have I really done this week? Because once you start to get into that negative or pessimistic mindset, you start to forget all of the things that you have done for yourself. So by journaling it and reminding yourself that you are doing good and you are on the right track can totally change the course of your week or day.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I really like that last part you said, Chevy, because I think I've done that in the past, and I do recall how awesome. I was like, oh, my life is like awesome right now. How did this happen? And it was doing that exact thing. It's been like 7 years since I've done that, but yeah, that's excellent.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that came to my mind as well, and it's something that, we don't always take into consideration, like we know it, but we forget about it. And, it's drinking water with intention. So bringing a bit of an air of positivity or an air of love or gratitude in the moment, and, holding that intention in your water and taking the drink. It doesn't have to be anything super extensive, but it does give you a moment for space, a moment for pause to have that experience or that gratitude. Again, just for your water. And as we all have seen at some point or another, the video of the water being imbued with emotions, it's going to fill your body and your cup up with that energy and that intention. Again, it's always those little small steps that help that incremental growth or that incremental change that is really the power of your actions and choices and thoughts. Because we all want it to be just like this, okay, I did all this for an hour and now the rest of my week should be good, or the rest of my life should be good, or whatever. And it's, every day it presents itself as a new, different type of challenge. So, yeah, that was a good question. Thank you for that.
Last thing that I'll add to that is one of the books that I'm reading right now for yoga teacher training. It's called The 4 Agreements. And, the first agreement within it, sorry, my voice is like echoing. It's hard to.
I fixed it.
Okay. The first one, like the first agreement that you make with yourself is being impeccable with your word. So that's like finding that optimism and that positivity in the word that you speak to yourself and to others. And I'm just going to go over the 4 of them really quick, not too much description, but like, I think that this may help as well. The second one is not to take anything personal, and just understanding that what people are putting out into the world, it doesn't mean that it's specifically designed for you. It may be that they're putting out something that they're feeling inside, and they may be trying to bring you down with them, or they potentially could be bringing you up with them. So just not to take it personal, or remember that the words that others speak to you, it's going to translate in the way that you feel about yourself. And then for number 3 is not to make any assumptions. So make sure that you receive clarity in all the things that you're doing in your life. When you have clarity, that can allow you to also have more optimism in your daily life. And then the last one is just to always do your best. So with everything that you do, doing it with intention and doing it with purpose to fill you. And that's it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Hi, Kirsten. Got you on mute because it was given a feedback there.
Who's Kirsten?
I'm assuming Leandra's friend? No? Yes?
Yes, I'm Leandra's cousin.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Hi, Kirsten.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet y'all. Thanks.
And I was on mute.
Hey, Leandra. Sorry, I'm at work. I look awful, so I put my video off.
That's cool. No problem. Welcome.
You look beautiful to me, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I can only stay for a bit. I might have to go back.
No problem. Yeah, so what else have you guys been working on? How's your meditations been going? How's your home life practice been going? Anything pop up?
I have been working on self-compassion this week because I made a mistake the other day with one of my foster kittens. I was giving him too much medicine for quite a few days, and I was making him like more sick. Like I made his stomach have a lot of issues, and I was beating myself up about it because I want to be a nurse. So I messed up on this kitten, and it made me kind of afraid that I would mess up as a nurse as well. So but then I had this dream that reminded me that I'm meant to be a healer and I can't be so hard on myself. And then the next day, I went to this healing circle for nurses online, and the topic was self-compassion and forgiveness. And I feel like right now we're so like pent up, and we're kind of like with ourselves. So a lot is coming up and stuff from the past and worries about the future. And so like in this present moment, like all you can do is be compassionate like for yourself. And that's kind of just what I've been focusing on. So when things come up, I'm just like letting myself feel it, and just realizing that like it's okay, and everything that I've been through I was supposed to go through. So I've just been reflecting on that a lot.
Beautiful. And I think it really ties well actually to the beginning of the conversation in regards to optimism. You know, because that's compassion is also a type of optimism towards yourself. It's pushing out that energy, but back into your heart. And the other thing about what you said as well is you're managing your attachment to your emotional state in a healthy way and in a productive way, because we all tend to dwell on the negative, on the failures, on the mistakes, and we don't give ourselves enough compassion or enough grace to allow those mistakes and allow those moments for growth, allow those, again, those mistakes to shape us instead of define us. And I think that's a really important step in progression, because we can get very lost in the failures being something that define us versus something that grows us. And I think that goes along with the compassion part and the detachment from the emotional state that is caused by those particular things that happen to us, or that even if it's something we make happen, you know, maybe that can be a lot worse in a certain regard, because we feel very tied emotionally to our maybe lack of paying attention or whatever it is that the situation that occurred. And, you know, is it going to define you or shape you? And what can you do about it going forward versus dwelling, right? And again, coming back to this moment right now and having compassion for yourself in this moment right now sets you up for greater wins. And back to the optimism or pessimism is that when you're optimistic, you win more, and when you're pessimistic, you lose more. It's law of attraction, if you want to call it that, or it's just how things end up happening. And I think a lot of it has to do with that expectation as well. That when you have an expectation that you're going down this spiral of crap that's happening to you, that you set the stage for it to happen. And I know I've talked about this at certain points, but I think everyone has at least heard somebody, or you yourself has said, well, you know, bad things always happen to me in threes. And, you know, so something bad happens to you, and then you say that, and you're putting it out there that you're expecting at least 2 more bad things to happen to you. So it's like you're looking for the next error versus looking for the next positive thing that could happen. And again, that can occur at any level. And, you know, I always like to think about driving around in a car and getting really worked up and upset over the slow driver in front of you. which we've all, or somebody cuts you off, or something happens on the road and you get upset, and it's like you allow that to derail your day or your emotions in that moment. And sometimes, I wonder if it would just be better to be grateful for the unknown thing that you were protected from. The split few seconds or minute or whatever that it caused the delay. Maybe it kept you from a car crash. Maybe it kept you from something way down the line even that you don't even know. Maybe something a year from now could occur that is based on that red light going for just a little bit too long. And so again, I think it comes back to not getting caught up in the moment and not getting so attached to your emotional state and your emotional feeling in that moment. And it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to do. But again, I think back to the compassion, having the compassion for yourself to allow the space for a failure or a mistake or an error on your part, because we all make errors, we all make lapse in judgment, and we as humans really tend to, not all the time, but often enough, we take actions that are not in our own best interest. And you could say that about relationships, about food choices, about work arrangements, about family squabbles, about your actions on working out, your actions on money, like I bought too much. There's so many things that are in that regard towards yourself that you can really see as things that are just, why, and then you say it, why did I do that? I knew better. Why did I do this thing for some temporary emotional pleasure? Like, I don't know, buying $100 worth of books or just buying stuff. And it's like, sometimes it just happens. Like you're in that moment and you get caught up. And it's okay when that happens too. But all I mean is that we all make mistakes and we all have our own little garden that we have to, de-weed, and the weeds keep coming back and you have to keep de-weeding. You have to keep aware of what you're doing and aware of your actions. And again, you're going to make small fuck ups. You're going to make big fuck ups. And as long as you keep returning back to your center, keep returning back to your higher self and your true intention for yourself, I think, you'll be okay, or we'll all be okay. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yes, I always feel like the universe knows your intention. So this kind of goes to optimism. Like if you set your intention each morning, or you just like wear your heart in a positive way, and you're in a kind of a compassionate, do no harm type of mentality, then even whenever you do mess up, I think that the universe can tell that it wasn't anything malicious. Like it's kind of like, it's just like, okay, because it's like, it's not excusable. Like you learn from it. We make mistakes, and a lot of times it is to learn. But I think that if you stay optimistic and you have a good intention set, then I just think that you'll be okay. That's what I always remind myself. Like whenever I messed up the other day, I was like, I would not do that on purpose. Like I would not give this cat too many antibiotics on purpose. I just was not being present. I was just rushing, Yeah.
And, further to that, I would say there's also the necessity to forgive yourself when you do act up. And you know, maybe it's not right in the moment that happens. I mean, it can be, because it could be a small situation where, you know, it's okay, you can forgive yourself, but there's all the other things that you may do that you may need to process. You know, you may need to reflect on for a day or a week or even a month. But ultimately, I think hand in hand with that compassion and that intention, your own personal forgiveness towards yourself. And the forgiveness has to be true, because if it's not true, the universe will feel it. Again, back to your intention. It has to be a pure intention. It has to be a true intention within your heart. And again, like I said, the universe knows. It can't be faked. And neither can the forgiveness, especially forgiveness towards yourself. It really can't be faked. But I will say that you can work on it. Maybe it's not as true the first time you do it, but it becomes more true as you reflect on the situation again, and again offer yourself forgiveness maybe a week later, maybe a month later. Sometimes it takes a couple goes before, you know, you really feel resolved from your actions. But I think ultimately, you know, as long as you're not necessarily harming people, you will find that resolve, no matter how big or small. And I think that's important because, again, it's life is crazy and things happen. We take actions that, again, we may think is fine one time, but as the days go on or the weeks go on, we realize that, damn, you know, we fucked up. But there's always the ability to redeem yourself, and accepting your suffering, accepting your burden, accepting your cross, and dying and being reborn. Told you I was going to talk about Jesus, Leandra. But ultimately, that's what that story is about. It's about letting a part of you die so that you can be reborn as a pure individual, a better person. It's not that you have to physically die. It's that you have to let things go. You let this dead wood burn off of you. You let these ghosts from the past go. You surrender these weights that you're holding, but you also take it on voluntarily. I think that's the other part that's important, is you're looking at that suffering, or you're looking at that aspect of self, and you're taking it on. You accept that burden, and you surrender. And surrendering it all and letting that part go, again, gives you the opportunity to begin again. And each moment, in truth, each breath is an opportunity to begin again. Have you thought about your breath today? Think about it now. Just feel it. Breathe it in consciously, with intention. That's this moment right now. That's bringing you back to a starting point and saying, okay, here I go. Every opportunity, every breath gives you a chance to make a choice, gives you the chance to choose what your highest ideal is, what your highest intention is, and what the best action is for any given moment. And it's important to be mindful and aware of your actions and your choices. Otherwise, you're going to always be determined by your emotional states and other people's emotional states, other people's emotional influence on you. But you don't have to. You don't have to allow yourself to get sucked into your own drama or to other people's drama. It's a choice that you can make. And they'll try. They're going to try hard. They might start yelling and screaming at you. They really might try to suck you into their world. But if you can manage to come back to your breath, know that you can reset, know that you don't have to play that game, I think you'll find that as you practice that more and more and more, you get more and more attuned to what your truth is, to what your highest self wants. And you begin that process of the de-weeding and not making so many actions that really resonate against your being. Yeah, any thoughts? I'm looking at you, Leandra.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah, please.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Hey,
going back
Canuto.
to what, hey, what's up? Going back to what you're saying about, you always have a choice to not allow people to get to your head and affect how you feel. It takes a lot of practice. But I think at some point, if you really try to do it and you really put your mind to it, like, you can control your emotions, control your thoughts about, let's say like some drama going on around you. It's kind of the same concept about, I think Alex posted that picture about the lady twirling. And then, the goal was to try to make it turn around the other way. It's kind of like doing that. You're presented like a scenario. In this case, the lady was twirling, for example. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Is it that little video?
The
that,
silhouette.
yeah, the
Yeah, I
silhouette,
remember.
she was twirling. Yeah. So you presented a scenario, and you see it, and you're trying to change the way she's turning. It's possible, but when you try to do it, you just can't do it, and then you feel like you have this kind of like roadblock. Well, it's kind of like that. Once you master how to do that kind of thing, you can apply the same thing to, controlling your thoughts and emotions, allowing people to affect you a certain way, or you like just learn to, if you feel angry or resentment towards something, just kind of look inward at yourself, and then try to just reverse it. And once you master that, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. So the dancing silhouette, if you guys don't know, it's like a picture of a girl dancer. It's like all gray and it's spinning either clockwise or counterclockwise, but it's a optical illusion to where you can actually make it spin clockwise or counterclockwise with your mind, in a sense. It's like you can kind of choose which way the girl's spinning. And yeah, I mean, I think that's, I posted that for multiple reasons, but yeah, I mean, that it can be applied in that regard too. It's that it still comes back to your mental awareness and which direction you are allowing any particular stimuli to direct. And if you can navigate which way to direct it, I think that's where you develop that skill over time. And like he was saying, the more you do it, it starts to become a second nature. Ultimately, it still comes down to your own awareness in any situation, and how much awareness can you have in your day, or even if it's not all day, because you're not going to be aware all day, at least in the context of being mindful of your emotional response, at the very least gives you a clue in as to, do I want to respond that way or not? And again, most people don't really even consider do I want to respond that way or not? They simply act on their first emotional response. But it's work. It's definitely work. It's not easy. It's trial and error. It's trying it every day and knowing that you're maybe going to get it 10, 15%, and then trying it again and edging better, edging better, edging better. All of this stuff we talk about is pretty similar to that practice, is edging yourself to better and better results instead of, what we generally want, which is the quick, I want the result today, I want it now. And again, all of this stuff is really a practice. It's practicing your mental discipline, practicing what is true to you. It's not for everybody. But it's all choice, right? It all comes back to choice. And that is what is so great about doing a meditation practice, is that you are developing the association of a positive choice. You're choosing to sit down for, whether it be a minute, 5 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is, to sit and be with your breath and be present with yourself. And that's why I talk about doing it when you feel like it, doing it when you don't feel like it. Because if you can commit to doing it no matter your emotional state, again, you're committing to a choice that is choosing something that is building your highest self, building your highest character. And if you can choose the simple action of just sitting and being still, even if it's just listening to silence for a couple minutes, your mind is going to tell you, why bother? Your mind is going to tell you when you sit down, like, oh, this is annoying, I don't feel like doing this. And when you fight it and you stick to it, you stick to what you know is contributing to your highest self, you're building that muscle memory, you're building that habit, you're building that strength to have greater amounts of choice when you are presented with an emotional situation that requires you to be present and to make a sound decision versus an emotional response. So the greater, again, muscle memory that you're building through this meditation, the more choice you ultimately have. Even when we talk about going to the touch and touching the chakra point and just feeling the touch, again, you're doing the same thing. Every time you come back to the touch, you're choosing to come back to the touch. You're choosing to feel it, to focus on it. And your mind wanders and you come back, and you come back, and you come back. Each time is another choice. Each time is another opportunity for you to choose to do it or choose to not do it. It's so simple, but it's so brilliant in how it attunes your energy, how it attunes your energy to be more present in your everyday life. Yeah, any thoughts? Or questions? Questions are good.
I got a question. I've been actually trying to discern between instinct and, well, instinct, logic, and kind of your emotional desires, so to speak. Say you love someone, but they're just not logically, they're not the one. It's not the smart choice, but you know you love them. So like, so there's those two decisions. Which ones do you choose between? And then there's the instinct where you just instinctually kind of like know to stay, know to go, you know. And just I'm just more curious about the instinct part because that's been coming up for me, and it's going against my logic. Anyway, what do you guys have to say about that?
So let me make sure I understand you correct, because you said instinct, logic, then you said emotional decision, which to me, I interpret that as intuition.
No, emotional is, at least for my case at the moment, it's more of like attachment,
Okay.
desire. And instinct, it's more in the gut. Like, it's just like this compulsion I feel in the gut to go forward or come back in a certain.
Okay. And so your question is, how do you distinguish between those, or what should you listen to?
I don't know, just if anyone has any experience, like listen, like maybe more details on they listened to their gut, but they didn't necessarily think that was a good decision, but they listened to their gut and went through with it and it was fine, or maybe it wasn't. More of just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's not a good I don't know. Maybe someone has a better way of phrasing it, but
I think I'm understanding where you're coming from. So you're trying to make a decision and you're trying to discern between whether you go with that decision, yes or no, and whether you follow your emotion, your heart, whether you follow your mind, or where you follow your gut instinct. Those are the three, right?
Right. Those are the three that are coming up. Mm-hmm.
One thing that I can say to help in that type of a situation, for me, I've experienced this with my ex-boyfriend, and I was trying to figure out the best route to take, wanting to stay with this person because I love him, knowing that he's not going to give me what I need, or staying with this person just based on, the experience that we've had, the life that we've shared together, things like that. And what has allowed me to make the best decision for myself is, again, I always go back to writing things down, because when you write things down, I feel like it puts it all into perspective for you. And one thing that I did is I wrote out what my values were and what my values are in another person or in my partner or my life partner. Once I was able to write those two things down and see, and then also what I wrote out was like my partner's values based on just our own conversations we've had over time. And then I wrote out what that person was bringing into my life. That literally put it all into perspective for me, and it allowed me to make the best decision, which was to break up with him, because the values that he had did not align with the values that I had in myself, and the values that I had into my partner, like values that I just had to write it all out. What I wanted in another person, he didn't match up with any of that. And that allowed me to make the most logical decision for myself, even though my instincts and my emotional self was on two totally different pages. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of helps.
Yeah, for this is, I don't know, like how long did it take for you to realize, like how long did you have to hang in there, so to speak, after you made that final cut to be like, okay, this was a logical decision. Now my heart's like, yeah, that was the right one. Yeah, the gut was right. Was that like
I wrote this out. I actually have it all right here. I write everything down. I wrote this out. So I was feeling it for a long time, because you'll feel it emotionally first for a long time, and you'll stick it out for however long you need, because emotionally, there's something that ties you guys together. But I wrote this January 22nd, and I broke up, had the conversation, and we broke up February 10th. So it took me about like a week and a half because once I had like the foundation, once I saw like and I see from my own writing, my own values, like the decision was already made on that date, on January 22nd, when I wrote it out. I had to kind of fill out things and kind of just feel where things were. And that the time that it took for me isn't going to be the same for the time that it takes for you, you know? But for me, I stay very true to like my word and what I value in certain things, that I couldn't stand it to be with him any longer after I really knew and really had it all written out for me.
That makes sense. Cool. Thank you.
That was a logical example for sure.
I have an intuition. Well, I don't have an example, but I have a practice that I use sometimes, because sometimes I can't tell if it's like just my emotions or if it's intuition. And I always just ask myself which option feels more like the truth. And you know which feels more like the truth by like doing an example with yourself. So if I say my name is Abigail, that's not the truth, and that has like a certain feeling kind of in my gut, you know. It's like, no, that's not true. You know, you can practice saying things that aren't true and you know aren't true and see how that feels like. And then say a bunch of things that are true. So like, my name is Claire, and then say a lot of truth and see how that feels kind of. And so it's like, if you have those two kind of options, you can like put them inside and see what they feel like. And then you can make your decision based on that, which one feels more like the truth. So I don't know which one that would be. So Chevy had logic. Is that one your like your gut?
To me, that's like a emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I think that is more emotional. Yeah.
So we've got the logic, the emotion, now the instinct.
Looking at you, Adelaide.
I don't know, I guess because I struggle with this a lot too, so it's just like I'm like, as y'all are talking, I'm like learning too. But I guess like intuition is just like knowing the choice that you're making, like you know that it serves you and it's gonna serve you in the future, and it's gonna allow you to like grow and not just keep yourself like stagnant. And then also just like you know, if you're choosing between a person, like making sure that like the both of y'all are together, like ask yourself first, like, are you a good person with this person, and then are you a good person together with them? Like do both of y'all make the world a better place? So I think that will kind of help. That's a little bit of logic, but also like intuition of like how you like know, and like the feelings that you know with that person that you've like cultivated over the relationship.
And I think also like instinctually, I feel like as humans, we instinctually want to not feel alone, and we want to feel connected and attached to something else. So I feel like if you can really hone in on your daily affirmations that I am not alone, I'm doing this certain things for me, and help your instincts maybe to shift in a certain way, that can help you to feel more comfortable with yourself, more centered with yourself, so that you can make the best decisions for you only, not necessarily a decision that may be good for somebody else. I don't know if that kind of goes into the instincts a little bit more, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but that makes sense. Now that we've been bringing it up, I think there was one time, I think within the last 2 months, I made a commitment to someone. I said I was going to go visit them, and that day, I'm like, in my gut, I'm like, this is not a good decision, but like, I was like, well, you know, I'm going to keep to my word. That's just the thing. I'm going to go and make, you know, follow through. Well, let's just say at the end of the day, it was a bad idea. So that's why I'm like, you know,
Should have listened to your gut.
I should have listened to my gut. Yeah. So
I feel like the gut never steers you wrong. If you like instinctually know to go a particular path and you feel it in your gut, like I've never been I've only been let down if I've gone the opposite of what my gut tells me, you know. And you saying this, you know, it's you feel the same, but
I feel the
yeah,
same, but like this particular instance, it's like I feel this like this instinct, but I followed it before and it put me in a situation that was not necessarily ideal. So was the situation more ideal than I interpreted it then? I don't know. It's kind of I think what I'm gonna do is really just take your advice, Chevy, and just write down kind of where I'm at with myself, and then see if the things align. Because if there's similar and how I interpret, I guess, people in general is, you know, we're kind of this big conglomerate of consciousness based on our past memories and experiences and interests, and that kind of manifests into this present life. And if you got someone else that has similar or certain keys to the keys to unlock kind of allow you to blossom, it's like this it's a good match, so to speak. But if there's not a lot of keys and you guys aren't really able to like benefit from each other, then it just, you kind of start growing apart. So I think what you said is really help in this situation, just based on that, writing stuff down. So
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
So going back to what Adley was saying, and I think you were trying to distinguish to Alex. So instinct and intuition, like what's the difference? To me, instinct is more of like kind of like an impulse. It's more I guess it's more aligned with our like our animal side, our mother nature type of side, whereas intuition is more of our like spiritual side. And since we're talking, I think you guys are talking about relationships. I'm not too sure, but if we're going based on that, like trusting your intuition and your instincts alone, like when it comes to people, it's kind of it's a little difficult because you know there's two consciousness involved. There's you and the other person. So that variable alone is like it's really hard to determine what's going to happen at that point. Just you know, since we're talking about relationships, if you're trying to decide like if that person's the one for you, really, for me, what it came down to was like, you know, is there chemistry? So love for me, let's say love exists in like in the three planes, right? You have your spiritual, physical, and your mental plane. Love exists in the physical plane through chemistry. If you're with that person and you guys have good chemistry and like you know, you guys are happy together, you feel it, you know, that's when people say, oh, he's the one and whatnot, because they have that chemistry and like you guys just laugh at each other and you know that it's a good match and that's chemistry. In the spiritual plane, it's like, you know, you guys go through tough times, but it's like, you know, I'm so willing to work it out with you. Um, you know, I'm still gonna try to, well, actually it's more like a choice thing. It's like every day I'm gonna fight to be with you. Or whereas like, you know, this is something that I don't want for I'm sorry, I kind of lost myself. But anyways, on the spiritual plane, it is more of like a hard working type of deal, like the struggle and the tolerance and the patience, that's on the spiritual plane. And then like mentally, it's like a choice. Love is a choice. Every day you have to choose to be with that person, or you know, or not. Like if you try to use logic with people, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works. It's just you just at the end of the day, you also gotta believe that, you know, the universe is not gonna do you wrong. Whatever you choose, there's no right or wrong. You just have to choose. You just have to make that decision and live with the consequences. If not now, then later. You know, at some point, if for example, what you desire is to be with someone to find a soulmate, then you're going to get there eventually. You just have to make that choice at some point in your life.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
No
And
problem.
Canuto, the three you said chemistry, spiritual, and mental. Were those the three areas of
Well,
focus?
the way I kind of like wrote it down, or I had it in my head, is like, on the physical plane, love exists as chemistry between two people. On the mental plane, it exists as the choice, having, like, choosing to be with that person, regardless of, the circumstances. And then the spiritual side is like, toughening it out, and being disciplined, not to like get temptation over you. That's the way I see it. You writing this down?
Maybe. I
Cool.
liked it. It's good stuff.
I wrote it down too. That was nice.
Cool. I'm glad you guys are learning.
Yeah, learning. I love just learning perspectives.
Right.
I like the way you put it together.
And I think the most difficult thing in all of that is we want so desperately to make the right choice. And like Canuto said, either choice is fine. And I would say couple that with Claire's perspective of, well, when you say either choice is fine, how does the one choice make you feel over the other? You tell it. Go ahead.
I was saying that I kind of came up to a trick that I would used to do was say, make a decision assuming that you're wrong, and then move from there. And it's just like you're going to be wrong either way, no matter what kind of just going on throughout your life. Eventually, you're going to make a wrong decision. The fact that you anticipate it beforehand gives you a step up on being overwhelmed by a wrong decision. It's I guess in a way, if I'm trying to say that, it's expect to fail. Don't always assume that you're going to win every time. Just you get better and better at building yourself up, at taking on the shit that you have to take for making bad decisions, and then you'll eventually learn that you'll start making more right decisions. I mean, maybe not, but I feel like I learned more from the bad decisions that I made than anything from all the good decisions, because I just keep trucking along. Yeah.
Well, I would have to strongly disagree on that, Andrew, only because I am a 100%, 1000% optimist, and I look at every decision as being literally the opposite of what you said. But that's because I'm such an optimist, and I feel like continuing this on an optimist point of view, like
I'm not saying that I'm not optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I'm not determined that every choice that I make is going to be the right choice. I'm very optimistic that it will be. I'm not like counting on it, so to speak. It's like, you know what I mean?
You're not attached to the result.
Yes, exactly. I'm not attached. There's no attachment there. Very optimistic, no attachment to the result. That's a very good way to put it.
But ultimately, that still begs the question, how do you make your decision? What are you making your decision based on?
Yeah.
A lot of instinct, mostly.
So you feel it in your gut?
Oh, yeah. Mostly from life decisions, I've kind of mostly just decide on the gut, everything, mostly. And I guess I use logic and gut, and I guess depending on what it is, I try to use all of it, but a lot of instinct.
Give us an example.
Well, I guess an instinct, I would let's say moving to Houston, I would play out different scenes, or not scenes. I would just play out different scenarios and where I need to be in life and who is where and whatnot. And it's kind of like what pulls me where. It's like a negative positive feeling, and it's either an A or a B, and it's or a yes or a no. You know, it's all about finding that which way does it pull you the most. And I've been able to, I guess, tune into that feeling more. So
would you say that it started from like major decisions, or do you think you were listening to it?
I would say even little decisions, like if I'm cooking something, you know, if I'm making this, you know, if I don't want to put cinnamon in that, obviously, you know, put cinnamon in gumbo, it's going to taste really bad. You know, you don't want to, you know, it's kind of just from different experiences, what you've done beforehand, you know, in the past, all represents what you're going to do in the future, because, you know, what decisions that you've already gone through, already made, are going to majorly affect the decisions that you have now because of the experiences that you've been doing. So
practice and building a trust in your communication with your gut.
Yes, yes.
And you know, ultimately, I would take it back, because this sounds very similar to what Claire said. I would say again, is your relationship to the decision in kind of that split second, either the decision or the thinking about. I'm gonna mute you, Andrew.
Yeah.
I really like her interpretation. For me personally, I think it resonates the most for the, other than, of course, there's the logical, which again resonates really well as well. But the emotional attachment will oftentimes trump whatever logic you may have. Not all the time, but sometimes you can have two lists and you look at the list and there's an obvious choice and you're still like, well, you know, I don't know. You know, and I think that comes from the emotional center. It can be glaringly obvious. Maybe not for you, Chevy, but for some instances, it can be glaringly obvious to you what the right logical choice is, and you won't do it. You don't feel it. You're thinking with the heart. You're oftentimes I'll say oftentimes I do this glamorization of future, this idealization of what could be, what is possible. And that can have a major influence on how you relate to any present situation. Is that when you're not in the heat of the moment, oftentimes it's very easy to remember only the positive of the past, and it's also very easy to fall into the idealization of future. But I think, again, referring back to what Claire said, and kind of holding the two options in your chest, or even saying, like what Andrew said, you know, either option is good. It's like when you hold those two options in front of you and then you say either option is good, immediately notice what the shift is to both ideas. Like, you're going to feel one, maybe you won't, but try it out. And I think you'll feel that one feels heavier than the other. One feels like it's gnawing at you versus an opening, versus a positive potential. But you know, I would say too that, man, it's tough. It's tough to make a decision, to make a choice. despite all of those things. That I think that's one of the things that I would say most people really struggle with. Because I think I've asked Eric that as well at some point. I'm like, well, how do you know that you're making the right choice? And say, listen to your navigator. Okay, well, yeah, but then you got the logic going in. You got, so it's like, okay, well, my chest said this, and I'm supposed to trust my gut. I'm supposed to trust my feels like, but then my logic says, or my brain says, but you want this, but you want that. Yeah, it's, and again, back to there's no wrong decision. As long as you can find the benefit that you're coming out the victor, so to speak. And I hate to say that with a relationship status type of thing, but ultimately there's give and take. And if there's more give than there is receiving or growth from the partnership, then you're going to feel it and you're not going to be happy unless the other person also commits to making certain changes. But that goes back to Kanuta saying you got two different consciousnesses that both want a outcome, and ultimately you're the only one that can look out for you. Nobody else can look out for you, and you always have to look out for yourself. It's not that you have to be selfish, but it is to say that you should put yourself first. And oftentimes putting yourself first means that you end up hurting the other person, or, but it is what it is because nobody else is looking out for your interest. Maybe you have family, maybe you don't. Maybe you have people you count on, maybe you don't. Maybe you can't count on it in every instance. But, ultimately you have to step up. It all comes down to you. When all the chips are down, if all the chips fall down, hopefully they don't. But ultimately you have to count on yourself. And again, I think back to the relationship context is hopefully you're in the company of somebody else that wants to see you succeed and wants the best for you. Maybe they screw up in the relationship. Maybe they don't do everything. Maybe, they fuck up really bad and hurt you. And, sometimes it doesn't mean that they hurt you on purpose. I think even if somebody is hurting you, they can still have your best interest in heart. And that may sound counterintuitive, but I think that there is still some level of, not with everybody, but, there's some instances where it's like, again, it's like, well, that person fucked up, but, ultimately I've grown a lot from them. Ultimately, I can still see potential growth. Ultimately, I can see that. And if you can't see those things, I think that also ties into the logic part of it and what answer that you're seeking. It's difficult. It's really difficult. There's no easy answer. What you guys thinking out there?
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Alright. So I'm working on stuff in the back, so I didn't want to be loud to unmute every now and then. What was I gonna say? Man, I totally forgot. Hold on. Oh, okay. So, I guess what I wanted to say was going back to choosing what decision is right or wrong, and it all goes back to there's really no wrong or right decision. You just have to pick one and deal with the consequences. Then I agree with I think it was Andrew that said it, that you get hurt when you make decisions, but you got to also remember that pain is one of the teachers in our lives, and we kind of have to learn the lessons that pain is teaching us. If we don't learn the lesson, then we're going to continue to have the pain until we learn that lesson. So, life, it's pretty cliche, but life is really a journey, and you got to go through it and learn as much as you can. Become every decision that you make, you got to trust that you're moving towards that better version of yourself every time. And like, if it's a hard decision, just have faith in God, have faith in the universe that, that they're not there. The universe, God isn't there to like hurt you on purpose. Like, there's always a reason why you're getting hurt. If you're true to yourself, if you're true to others, you practice having good integrity, like helping others, and not lying to yourself and not lying to others. And I think it all goes back to karma. And if you try to make a decision, it comes out the wrong way. Like, if you're true to yourself when you made it, then it was for a reason to better yourself. You just gotta trust it.
And I think further to that, I'd like to say just that if you're making the decision based on your own best interest, that if the person is meant to be in your life as your partner, that they'll find a way back to you, that things will work out in that favor. And I think that goes back to the having the faith or having the trust in God or the universe, and trust in yourself, that you're looking out for yourself in a selfish but unselfish way. Like, you're not making these like extreme demands, like you're looking out for the demands of what a partnership should bring, which is, a growth in both individuals. And if there's not a growth coming from the other partner towards you, if there's more give than there is receive, then that and again, that's why I say I think if there's if it is meant, whatever will be kind of thing, que sera, sera. But I think if you make the decision based on your own best interest in your personal development, that it will produce the best relationships. And again, if it was meant to be with that individual, then it will find some ways and means to work it out. But I think if you follow the clues laid out that lead towards your own, again, personal development or personal betterment, that's where you'll end up finding the most gratification towards a future. Yeah. That's it.
One last thing I wanted to add. Going back to what you said, if it's meant to be, it's to be. Funny story that you say that, or funny that you say that, because actually, there was this girl that broke my heart really bad, like 10 years ago. And I stopped talking to her for a while, almost a year. And then one day she just came back into my life. We were friends. And long story short, I ended up marrying her. And now we have a family. We have a little boy with her. So you just really got to trust in it. Trust in the universe,
That's great.
Oh, I didn't know that was you and Grace's story. That's really cute.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I do apologize to call you a pessimist. I didn't understand your response very well. But now that I understand that you're meaning be okay with both choices, that makes a lot more sense. I just typically look at the choice as being good to like give me the motivation to go with that choice rather than it's probably going to be wrong. Because for me, like looking at it like that will deter me from making a choice if I feel that it's going to be the wrong choice and I feel inside that it's the wrong choice.
Everybody has their ways of how they make their own choices. I guess I kind of do things unconventional in a way, and some other times just because I don't know why not. But I now that I think about it, I do use a lot of logic in my decisions and a lot of just past experiences, and I'm a very optimistic person, but I used to get attached to the outcome of every decision that I made, or throw a fit that it didn't go my way or whatever. And once I became aware that that was affecting me, or that was just not the right way of doing things, I just decided that that having that not to think about the outcome and at all or whatever, and not have it let it affect me, it seemed to be a better, I guess, workout for me in a way. Sorry, put me on mute. I'm trying to pay attention.
Oh, and the last thing too, with the decision that I made with my ex-boyfriend, you know, we were really good friends before we dated, and we're still really good friends today. And it honestly was the best decision for both of us. Where his life has taken him is exactly the path that I was expecting for it. And, you know, where my life is taking me is, you know, where it's taking me. So yeah, just be true with your word. It'll lead you the right place.
Cool. Well, yeah, that sounds like it. How's everyone feeling? Cool. Well, I'll send you guys a playlist, unless there's any other final thoughts.
If you guys could all put, you know, some love and energy into this video conversion. I'm still trying to convert this video. It's a halfway there, and this is usually where my computer freaks out. So maybe a little bit more, you know, you guys knowing maybe will bring that positive energy to just let it get through. It's draining me, honestly.
Don't blow up her computer, guys.
Well, yeah, don't blow it up, but, you know, feel that the video will upload.
Technology is hard, dude. I know that type of frustration. I will send
giving
love
me a headache.
to you and your computer.
You have a plan
Thank you.
B?
What'd you say?
You have a plan B, like you know?
Well, the plan B is, yeah, just basically doing it all over again on my PC. Yeah, it was about, you know, like about 30, 45 minutes of work to put it together. So I can do it again. I just was hoping that I wasn't going to have to, because like I'm using like iMovie on the Mac, and I downloaded one for my PC, but it doesn't work the same. But yeah, if I have to, I'll just have to upload it on the PC instead.
What are you making?
It's like my onboarding for yoga teacher training. I'm doing Sun A, Sun B, and then they wanted to see how you did a bunch of different stuff like push-ups, sit-ups, headstand, forearm stand, handstand, all this stuff. And so I recorded it with my GoPro so that I could get each clip, and then I put it all in the video, and then like added what each one was. And yeah, I did put a lot of work into it, and it had to be under 10 minutes. It's only 10 minutes long. And the last video that I did was the one for the sound bowls. And that one took like a couple hours to upload, or to convert, but it did it. So I'm not really too sure what's changed. But yeah. And Brianna, are you on the GroupMe group?
No. Yep, not really.
No. Do you want to be? Or do you not want to be, like, is that too much noise?
I'm pretty good at tuning out noise. It wouldn't be a noise thing. It's more of like a I don't want to get attached if I leave type of thing. But
Oh.
but yeah, I would
I
love
see.
to join anyway. I can handle the pain. I'll be
Well, if you leave, there's still like you're still with us. Like you never will not be a part of us now that you're here. You know, like
aw.
they're still virtual. You know.
Yeah, that would be cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sending.
Yeah, Alex had her.
Yeah, I'm sending her the GroupMe invite right now.
Yes, nice to meet you, Brianna. I'm Claire.
Good to meet you. Good to
I
meet you
was-
all.
Yes, I was listening to the recording from last week, and a lot of stuff that you said I really resonated with. Like your question about cord cutting, I was like, I've always wondered that, but I didn't know how to ask it. So yes, thank you.
Sweet. Well, I sent all y'all a playlist if y'all want to use it tonight, and that's pretty much it. So appreciate y'all copping on.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you guys. Have a good
Thanks
night.
for having it. Bye.
Have a good one.